How's it going, guys? My name is Connor. I'm our brand media manager here at UCI Rocket Project Liquids. Today, I'm taking an interview with Mr. Kyle Deck. How you doing?
What's up? Good. It's good to be here. The weather's pretty nice too. It's getting colder, but it's good to be here in Irvine. It looks like a hurricane hit this place right now.
I know. We had some kind of crazy winds the last couple of days, but
yeah,
settling down a bit.
Yeah.
Well, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, your position in the project, and maybe a little bit about your background in general.
Yeah, so I'm the project manager now, which what's funny is I started in your role, basically. So I joined the team when we launched UCI's first liquid rocket, which was cool. So any of the videos that you guys have seen, that was kind of my project throughout the quarters. So that was fun. It was honestly, I didn't think that I would be in this world in rocketry at all. So when I was there and got to experience that, it was like, for me, very eye-opening. And to be here 3 years later and still be here and to now be running the project, I couldn't have seen this coming, I guess you could say. But yeah, so I'm the project manager, so we're now building UCI's second liquid rocket. So the goal is to do what we did for UCI's first launch, but better, and to actually recover it this time, break the collegiate altitude record for Methalux, and then also, recover the vehicle and do it in 2 years, not 6 years. So that's like the three main challenges I would say that we have as a project right now.
So you're in your third year with UCI Rocket Project.
Yep.
And you're mechanical engineering, right?
Yeah, mechanical engineering. So I've got basically a quarter left after this, and then I'm graduated. So I'll still be here, hopefully launching this rocket in the spring, but yeah, I'll be done with classes, so looking forward to that.
Gotcha. What's that like, going from someone who maybe was more focused on their degree in the beginning and then figuring out what you're interested in, and then you land on Rocket Project and you build out your experience there? What was that like to be in that role?
Yeah, it's been very cross-functional. I would say that's just kind of where my skill set has always been, so I've kind of been able to express that here. This is actually the closest thing I think you can get to a startup outside of actually doing a startup on your own. And so that's been a world that I've been very interested in even before joining college. So being here and actually being a part of something like this has been awesome. So you get to use your mechanical engineering kind of knowledge that you get in the classroom and apply it. So for me, this project actually saved me from, like, it was hard for me my freshman year to see where all of the stuff that I was learning was actually like applying. And so when I joined this project, it was great to be able to see that, and then also to captivate it with a launch. So that was cool. And then, you get the engineering experience through that. And then there's, as you know, a lack of funding in certain areas. So you have to go and learn how to go and ask for money, how to give presentations, how to do all of this, I guess, business related stuff, but also just general communication and just kind of developing yourself as a person. So learned a lot. Honestly, I owe this project everything. I've given hundreds of hours into this, which is why I'm here. But I honestly wouldn't have it any other way.
Okay, well, you mentioned your interest in business as well. I know I met you through Manifest, which is UCI's entrepreneurship club. A little shout out to them. But you've actually had your own startup this year. You guys won the NBC pitch competition. Quite a bit of funds behind that. You tell us a little bit more about your business background, what interests you about entrepreneurship?
No, that was another thing. I honestly, I didn't expect myself to be involved in that either. So we won NBC in Butterworth with Sentinel this past June. Honestly, great experience. The team that we had, Spike, Kevin, Cody, Nathan, Michael, shout out to all of you guys. We had basically the perfect team to be able to do what we did. And so we won $40,000 at the end of it. And
$40K.
It was a cool experience. But I think, honestly, what really got me into that and what I've enjoyed the most about that type of project is just, when you're in engineering, a lot of the time it's just you're building something, right? And the fundamentals behind that, which I think there's a lot of value in. But ultimately, if you're not building something that people are going to buy, why are you building
What's the point? Well, speaking of the product, can you tell us a little bit more about what Sentinel was? And you also mentioned earlier how you're finally applying your degree to what you're doing. And I feel like that's such an important transition that a lot of students at a university campus might not ever get to make. Do you feel like you were able to explore that better with Sentinel?
Yeah, I would say definitely. This was actually the first project. So Sentinel, for anyone who doesn't know what it is, and probably most people, it's basically an AI dash cam for truckers and to prevent them from falling asleep, distraction, fatigue, detection, all that stuff. So basically it will analyze the driver. So it is a driver-facing camera, and it will analyze their eyes, how much they're blinking, when they might be tired, when they're distracted, looking at their phone, different things like that. And it will ultimately come up with a risk rating for how risky that driver is. And so the idea is there's over 500,000 trucking accidents per year. We want to keep people safe, right? That's the ultimate goal. There's a lot of regulatory kind of processes that you have to go through to get something like this out there. But yeah, it was honestly, for the first time, we basically built a working MVP in like 3 months. And I don't have a software background. It's a pretty big software product, but it was good to be on like the hardware side and the product management side, and then have a team of software engineers kind of behind the software to make it all work. And like I said, we had the perfect team, and ultimately I think that's why we were able to win what we won.
Got you. Yeah, I mean, so you're talking about this startup environment that you enjoy and that you want to explore more.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe part of that inspiration could have come from Rocket Project here, being PM. I've noticed you guys have a very professional mentality behind it. It doesn't feel like a collegiate group. It feels like everyone is there to get the job done. And it's a very smooth operation, which is no doubt responsibility of you. How can you, could you elaborate more on how you've seen the project change and evolve over the years? Because I'm sure when you got here, it wasn't as professional as a group as it is now. What kind of an impact do you think you've had as a PM?
So I do think it was professional when I joined. I think honestly the culture has kind of stayed relatively the same, which I think is a good thing. Like we have a very fun culture. It's very work hard, play hard. Like you'll see, I mean, people joke around a lot.
Right.
So it's not like we're lighthearted, but we do work hard, and we have some of the smartest people working on this stuff, right? So I think when I joined, the management and stuff hasn't really shifted that much. I will say, I think the team dynamics, and especially I was on operations for 2 years, I think the culture around that and what it has become, I think is in large part due to some of the shifts that we made culturally just on that team.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a lot more well respected than it probably was previously. So I think that has been a big shift. But ultimately, like, nobody gets anything done without a team. And so I think we've just done a really good job of getting the right people here and getting stuff done that way. And ultimately, like, that's why we're able to be in the position that we are, about to go vertical test fire, hopefully launch at the end of this year.
Right. So you see yourself more as taking this great legacy that Liquid's had before and continuing to keep that alive and inspire maybe some future freshmen or anyone who's got that interest in rocketry. Was this an industry, being aerospace, being, setting stuff up in the air, whatever you're doing, was that something that you've always looked to? I know you mentioned that you didn't know you were going to be a part of Liquids when you got here. So
yeah, no, it's funny. One of my best friends now, who was on the project and actually convinced me to join this project, Michael Ross, who's actually done an interview like this before. He convinced me to go out to Lucerne Valley to see solid rocket launches my freshman year. We actually met at the Entrepreneur Center. He forgets about that, but like that's where we met. So we debate on that. But yeah, so I went out to Lucerne and we saw the solid rocket launches, and I was like, that was the first time I'd like honestly seen anything like that. And honestly, my first reaction was like, this is like, people do this? Like, this is one, a little scary that people can just like go and do this stuff. But it was cool. Like, you're seeing rockets just launch up to tens of thousands of feet. And I mean, we saw some pretty big rockets there too. So as soon as I saw that, I was like, okay. And then I had that struggle in my freshman year to like, where's all of this knowledge applying? And so through a lot of conversations with different people that are close to me, I ultimately decided like it was probably better to join a project and just try that out rather than like dropping out of school, right? Or taking a break or whatever it might have been. So I did that, and I'm grateful that I did. So Michael convinced me and plenty of other people, and I haven't looked back since. And honestly, I love this industry, but I was never tied to it, and I don't want to be tied to it necessarily, even though I do really enjoy it. Like, there's a lot of different industries that I think I could do well in, but this is the one that I think I have the most experience in over the course of the 3 years that I've been here. So I've learned a lot, and I think there's value in continuing along a path like that, especially one as cool as aerospace is, especially in SoCal too. Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's always interesting to see what people's inspiration for getting into like space is. I feel like people will be like, oh, I was a kid, I want to be an astronaut. Or
there's a lot of people on this project that are like that, yeah.
Or like, I saw the SpaceX, what they're doing, when their launches, I saw what they catch with chopsticks last week.
What did you think of that when you saw that?
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I think knowing that there was a lot that went into that, and that they caught the booster first time was just unbelievable.
All the FAA regulations behind that too, like they were like, no, you guys can't do this.
Oh, that's been a huge challenge for you guys too as well, right?
Oh yeah.
Previously, it was very hard to receive regulatory approval from the campus here, and thanks to Kyle, the project has been able to do more of its operations here on campus. Because previously they had to drive multiple hours out into the desert where it was safe to do test fires and cold flows. But this summer you faced a big battle to get that approval. And so maybe a lot of people don't consider that there is not only this engineering difficulty that is conquering Methalux as a fuel type, but also conquering the regulatory side behind Rocket Project. You mind talking a little bit more about what were some of the things that were important going into applying for approval, and kind of maybe the mentality you guys had keeping that dream alive of being able to do your work here in lab?
Yeah, so for context, we do cold flows on campus now. We don't do static test fires or anything like that, just to be clear. Hopefully one day. I mean, Dean Egger said, honestly, he's a fan. Maybe we'll see one day if there's a spot we can do that. But yeah, so cold flows basically are like the entrance criteria to getting to a test fire. So you basically prove that the system works cryogenically at very low temperatures, and then you can do that with liquid oxygen, liquid natural gas, and then that's what makes Methalux rockets, right? So we now have approval to do cold flows on campus. It took well over 6 months at this point to do that. And I think the key kind of factors are you have to know who your friends are. Like we had to, at one point, we got to a point where we had to go reach out to Dean Eggerstead and reach out to the school, the people that we knew supported us to come and help us to get this done. And I think that played a role. So you have to know who the stakeholders are, and you have to know ultimately that what you're proposing is bulletproof. Like, it is a relatively dangerous test, all things considered, but we do have fail-safes in place. And so making sure that those things are not only in place, but communicated well is a very important thing. And then a lot of it is just patience and making sure that you have people kind of all aligned. Like, I'm not the only one who went through this. There's multiple people, Eric, Quincy, and the prop leads too, that have helped with getting this approval. So it is a big deal. We're one of the very few campuses that can do that on campus. So I'm proud of the team that kind of helped this happen. But yeah, it was a crazy ride, one that I wouldn't do again, but one that I learned a lot about.
So your connections are what kind of helped you cut through that red tape?
Yeah, I would say. Yeah, Dean Eggerstead, honestly, and the school admin have been a very big help and big supporter of that. So,
well, thank you to them. I would also say, so I'm a business guy, and so the way that we excel, I think, in our career is having a technical proficiency and knowing what the engineers are doing, how systems work. And if you're good at that, you're a business guy, your social skills are great, your ability to talk and do business is fine. But we excel because we have a technical proficiency. On the engineering side, it's completely reversed. And as you just mentioned, your network, who you know, who believes in you, who trusts you, is what allows you as an engineer to grow and to have an excellent career and to move up in the rank. Can you talk about more how you learned how to acquire that network and what would you say to an aspiring engineer who's like deep in the weeds right now with their classes and they're just doing this intense learning, but not necessarily going out there and networking like a business major would, even though that's so critical to their growth?
Yeah, no, it's a very good point. Yeah, you see a lot of engineers who don't have those skills, I guess, which is fine. Like, it's to teach their own, right? But I think at least for me, and I'll speak to my experience, was like I just had to put myself out there and to know that, like I said, my freshman year when I struggled with these things, I kind of had to start to look outward and to look at different possibilities for what I could do. So I kind of knew coming into UCI that like I wanted to make the most of it, and so I knew that the people here that you meet and all the opportunities are really the value of a campus like this. So the classes are one thing, but I always kind of in the back of my head knew like there's way more to offer than that. And I think even talking to people on the team who are in their earlier years now who might be struggling with certain things like this, I think I've just encouraged them to go to different events. I mean, I met you at one of the Manifest events. We went to USC. So doing stuff like that, I think is probably the most beneficial thing that you can do, but you just have to be willing to put yourself out there, which, believe me, I know is not an easy thing. But I think you'll always look back and think like, I'm glad that I did that, right? And so I've been blessed with a lot of opportunities, and I think knowing what opportunities to take, in most cases you should probably take the opportunities that are out there rather than saying like, oh, I'll stay in or I'll do these things. Like, you're here, you're paying money to be here, you might as well take advantage of everything that comes your way.
That's true.
So that's kind of my mindset.
But anyway, I guess I'll also ask you, do you have a favorite experience that you've had being on the project so far? That may be like a a big accomplishment? I know if you had to say, you'd probably say launch from 2022
I have
or whatever,
three that I could list. Like,
go for it.
So
go
VTF,
for
when I saw the test fire the first time, which I'm really excited not to only get out there to VTF to do it on a system that like I've kind of had my hands in and have overseen, but also for the people who have never been out there to see that. I know what it's like to see that for the first time, and I want other people to be able to experience that, because it is truly something that when you feel that in your chest, you're like, wow, this is real now, and this is all that hard work kind of out there. So VTF was my first one, and then launch, obviously, fantastic experience.
Sure.
Very bittersweet though, because we lost the rocket.
Right.
So I would say my third one was the weekend after, when we went out to go find it, and at the end of the day, I looked over. I mean, first of all, we found the camera mount that I built, so like that was in itself a miracle. And then end of the day, looking over my shoulder, I'm like, no way that's it, right? Like, and I call the guy who's over there. He starts running. That was the rocket right there. And
wow.
Like, that to me was, I think, honestly, I think there were like 5 different miracles that happened that day to be able to find that rocket. So, yeah, it was just, it's been a crazy experience, and I'm hoping for some more crazy experiences in a good way at the end of kind of my run on this project, and not only for myself, but for the people who have never experienced anything like that. I think is just, it's invaluable to be out there and to see it.
Yeah.
Cool.
For sure.
I think I owe this project really everything. I think I've said it like a couple times, but honestly, like, organizations like this that exist on campus, I think those are the biggest opportunities to take advantage of. And I know, at least for Rocket, I mean, it is more difficult to get into. It's just the barrier to entry is a little bit higher, because you have so many people who I think a lot of engineers coming in recognize the importance of doing stuff like this. It's just supply and demand, right? Like, you
can't take everyone.
You can't take everyone. And so there's a level of recruitment that goes into that, and you figure it out. But I think we have a good team now, and I'm excited for what's to come. Yeah.
Tell me, where are you shooting to? Where do you see yourself in the next 10 years? What's the dream?
I want to be just working on really cool stuff, honestly. And I want to be building stuff both on the engineering side and then the business side. I want to make sure that whatever we're building, whether it's me or a team of people, we're building the right things and not wasting our time. You're going to learn a lot along the way. But ultimately, if I have the freedom to be able to build what I want, when I want, with who I want, those things are, and where I want to. Traveling is a big one.
Not going to go to Arizona.
No, that was, honestly, I miss Arizona. Like, honestly, that was a good experience, even though there were some ups and downs to that experience. But Arizona's a cool place. But I would say those are really the things that matter to me the most, is just, like, there's some people on the project that actually opened my mind to, like, I think all of us are very privileged to be here in the first place. And to be studying what we're studying. It's very, very niche if you kind of go down to it. Like, if you think about when you applied from high school to college to now you're on this project and you're in management or whatever it might be, like, you kind of keep niching down into these, I guess, golden opportunities in a lot of ways. I think really taking advantage of that and using it for good in the world is ultimately what I want to do. I want to make sure that, like, whatever I do is impactful in the sense that, like, I'm not trying to be like the next TikToker or YouTuber or something like that. I think the more we have people that are, like, pushing to solve problems that, like, the world really needs solved, I think that's what this education is for, and I think that's what I want to use it for.
I'm touched, man.
So that's.
I'm really looking forward to seeing the rocket light this year.
Oh yeah, and I can't wait.
I think that builds a lot. Is like you're here. Your mission is a very noble one, very selfless one. Like, you just want to bring that feeling of joy and accomplishment to the other people on this project.
Yeah,
they'll be cold too when it comes up. But
when we go to VTF, they're gonna be cold. But it's one of those things that, like, it's a challenge of getting through, like, all of the obstacles, whether it's the weather or whatever. But that moment that MVAS opens and the test fire happens, it's like you can't relive that unless you're actually there. And so I just can't wait for other people to see that.
I hope one day that's able to scale with whatever you choose to do in the future, and that you're able to still bring that feeling out to whatever you choose to do, and inspire more people and get people to follow in your footsteps like that. I think you're on the right path to being an inspiration for a lot of people here on campus and your community as well. So we're really thankful to have you on the project, Kyle.
Appreciate it. We'll see where life takes me, and that's all we can do is just enjoy the journey, right?
Is there a person in this project that you feel like deserves more credit than they get? And maybe we'll see him on here on the show, but
there's so many people, and a lot of them don't want to be on camera, which is the funny part. Honestly,
you can name multiple if you want. I'll wrangle them in, but
I think Okay, so we have a lot of new members, and there's some really good new members that have done a lot of good things. I'm going to speak to the leads because I've seen the leads longer.
Yeah.
I would say the prop leads, both Caden and Hannah, have dedicated a lot of time to this project, and more than they get recognition for. Like Hannah built the feed system all on her own last year, and has done countless nights in lab late. She's always here. So shout out to Hannah and Caden as well, who honestly, he's somebody who, as an example of somebody who's been very passionate about space and kind of that exploration, he is the prime example of that. And so both of them have done a great job at just kind of dedicating all of the time that they have, but it's been behind the scenes. Our LV leads are awesome. They're the prime example of a good team and a good duo that run a very good launch vehicle team. And yeah, the avionics leads are also fantastic. So honestly, there's so many people I could point to, but I think the prop leads are the ones that really stand out.
Yeah, so. I think that's well said. A 1 year turnaround, I think, would be a huge landmark for this project. And
there are teams that do it, which is crazy. Like UCLA, I don't know if they were like 1 year, but they're up there. They're, I think, the prime example of a collegiate rocket project that has it down. They have different programs, and I think at that point, like, it would be nice to see different projects being worked on rather than just one rocket.
Yeah, that's true.
That's another thing.
That's where you want to build out too.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. But
okay. Well, Kyle, I am pretty fresh out of questions. I know we're coming up on my deadline here, but
I think we're good. We have enough.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I have a great understanding of your story, kind of where you're coming from here and where you're going. So
cool.
We'll go ahead and wrap things up. Thank you to Mr. Kyle Deck, our PM here for UCI Rocket Project Liquids. Wish we had an acronym for that. That didn't sound weird to say in English, but yeah, that'll be my closing thoughts.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you sitting down.
Sir, you're good. All right.